This is attempt number 2 because my furnace and everything happens while I'm down here. So I'm going to try to keep this short. So I tack welded the pickup in place and I got it to a good point. So with it, after where I tack welded it, it bottomed out on the pan. But there's a little bit of a discrepancy between what I made to help us make the pickup and the actual oil pan. And this is where it's crucial to check it, because yes, I can measure from the center of that strap to the pan rails, and it's 9 1/4 on each side. I'm using Bald Eagle measuring units now because I don't have a metric tape measure here, so we're switching it up a bit. But yes, they are both at the same height. But if you notice on the Kennebell oil pan, it's got a radius, and this isn't actually truly flat. So what's going on is this pickup isn't truly flat. It's higher on this side. So it bottoms out on this side, which I'm not worried about, and I'm going to explain why. If I take, I don't have like a small straight edge, but I'll use a file. File's pretty flat. They don't bend much. You see, we got quite a bit of clearance there. That's roughly measured out at almost just like about 1/4 of an inch. So what you really want is to have 3/8 of an inch between the oil pump pickup and the floor of the oil pan. From my buddy mentioned it, and then I actually looked it up, and it's 3/8 of an inch is what's recommended. But you also have to take into consideration your gasket, your RTV. So what I did was I took a 3/8 nut, which happens to be like a 1/4 of an inch, right? I'm talking eighths now, so like it's kind of starting to confuse me. So if you do, we end up with the distance from the pickup, which is cupped here. It comes out to be like almost a 1/2 inch. But something that I had to realize and look into is if you guys have used like an aftermarket oil pump pickup, they're usually like rectangular, boxed on all ends, and just an open bottom. This one is round. It's got a dish to it, and you have a lot more area. And this pickup actually kind of falls in line with almost the center line of the crank, which would thus, in theory, fall in center line with this, the oil pan. A little offset, but, not dead nut center, but close enough. And we can make that bend. Once we weld it, we can bend this even more and get it dead nuts center, which would actually probably help me a little bit, because to get the oil pan in, it's a little tricky. But for now, I kind of have to stop here and weld it all up and go from there, because it's not sturdy. It just has one tack weld. And again, I can also bend this. I'm going to actually probably end up bending this up a little bit more, just for the fact that it's easier to bend it down than it is to pull it up after it's welded. So, and I'm going to end up probably putting like a strap here, or like, actually, since I'm not worried about this side, because this is so wide, I'm not worried about this side bottoming out on the oil pan. I'm worried about this side, and obviously this sits pretty deep. So I'm mainly worried about this side having the right spacing. So my thinking is that I'm going to pull this up, drop the oil pan until it just kind of settles it, and then I'm going to end up probably, since I know I got a 1/4 of an inch here, which comes out to 2/8, I'm probably going to try to do like a 1/8 or a 3/16 nut or something welded here, just to keep the adequate spacing and we know we're going to be in the safe because this is, again, kind of tacoed. So this middle area is actually pretty, it's sunk in. We're going to definitely see oil, and our surface area is bigger than most aftermarket pickups. And again, we kind of altered it as well by removing the cover. So it's not going to be as critical to worry about the overall height of the pickup. It's just mainly going to be maintaining that distance between the pickup and the pan, and that's how I'm going to end up doing it. But it's been a small, kind of interesting journey. The cutaway oil pan definitely helped to kind of get things into place, but there was a little bit of a discrepancy there. But in theory, center to pan rail depth, they both measure out the same. It's just that the radius of the pan, and it's actually, my strap is almost like straight 90 degrees, whereas the oil pan kind of tapers at the top. And I think I'm actually kind of the oval end of the oil pump pickup is hitting the radius. But that's not important. I can bottom that side out and have this side to the correct height, and I think I'll be good because I'm going to have all of this surface area here, clear. So I should be good. But I figured I'd follow up yesterday's work with this, and we're going to go from there. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this kind of, I don't think it's an, underlooked, I guess overlooked area. I don't know whatever you want to fucking say. I think it just comes down to just kind of a unique situation that I figured I'd document. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I know a lot of guys have mentioned making a strap, and yes, we are going to make a support strap, which adding something here is going to be probably where I'm going to go ahead and put a strap to here, somewhere on here, nice and welded with a good weld. But we're going to go from where we're at now, and then start bending stuff. And then once we get it right to where we need it, then we're going to make our support strap and lock it all in, because we make our support strap, we can't move anything. We ended up triangulating it, right? So share, like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram as Copper Cutlass. I hope you guys are following along. Things are going to move here pretty fast here. Should be seeing my cylinder heads this weekend, and then hopefully my buddy will blast my intake and we'll get that on there, and we're going to put this thing on the dyno. And I know I had this conversation with my buddy tonight, and I think what it comes down to is the main reason I want to dyno this engine is just to have it completely ready to go. So last fall, we went out almost 3 weekends in a row, and we probably spent what it would have cost us to dyno the engine. And the numbers probably aren't going to be the most impressive, but we're just, after setting up the engine, having it kind of ready to go, at least really, really close. And I think it's going to be important because I kind of don't want to go what I went through last summer, and that's kind of where I learned that you can put an engine in and chase your tail, and it is kind of harder at the track. Whereas the dyno, you can almost go back to back, make a change, make a pull, make a change, make a pull, and at least you will know what it will do. You're probably going to have to do some changes at the track, but not as many as we had to over those 3 weekends. Obviously, we didn't know where to begin because we didn't have a baseline, we didn't have dyno numbers, but the whole idea here is to dyno it for those baseline numbers. This engine might make like 385, 415-ish tops. I don't know. All I know is that this thing ran at 1158 on a complete garbage tune at 113. And we ran an 1171 on 7 cylinders with a dead number 5. And I think that was at 100 and almost 13. This thing ran 1158 at 113, almost 114. So having that dead cylinder definitely slowed us down, but it also tells us that this engine did have potential. Ultimately, when I built this engine, I kind of wanted it to be like an 1170 engine and just run it at a 12.0. for bracket racing, but it did better than I anticipated, to be honest with you. And the flow numbers that we got from the flow bench, which big thanks to my buddy Dave. I think I'd rather have him explain some of the things about the cylinder heads and more in depth. He would be the guy to know because he has done so many Oldsmobile cylinder heads that he would know how to explain it. And I think this weekend maybe we'll take some time, and I'm sure he would love to explain why, compared to other cylinder heads, the J's would require a lot of work. And the flow numbers that we got, I think, aren't horrible, to be honest with you. They worked for us. But there's certainly going to be a limitation in a max effort engine, which is, I inherited the heads and whatnot. But either way, I've made this long enough. Share, like, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram as Copper Cutlass. And keep following along. This is going to probably be the first engine it's going to be the first engine that I've ever dynoed, and I think I'm going to stick to that. So we're gonna make it happen, and hopefully it doesn't blow up. So we'll let you guys go.